Morgen, but Erev Shabbos, Parshas Kerach, Chedesh. We're heading towards the Siyum Rambam, also heading towards Yom HaGadol, HaKodesh, Gimel Tammuz, and so there's the help from Mishri Zeiche that all the young and I think they'll last on Gimel Tammuz accomplished the Ikea coming of Mashiach and King of the Kar of Amish. The Rambam in Hilchis Melachim, Perik Hey, that's where we're holding Halacha Zayin. I mean, it's the second parak of today's Rambam. Writes about living in Egypt. He says, Muta lishkim b'chola elam chutz me'eretz Mitzrayim. You can live anywhere in the world you choose. Dror, as the Rashi says, B'daya Beidara, you can live wherever you want. And Ayama, except for Eretz Mitzrayim. And he gives the parameters of Eretz Mitzrayim. He says all of that is forbidden to live in. Then he brings psukim for this. And he says, B'shleisha mekayim es azira teira shlei loshuv l'mitzrayim. Shenem alei seisifim loshuv b'derech hazeh oid. One pasuk. Lei seisif oid l'reisim. Seisifim l'reisim oid ad eilam. Now, as we're not going to get into the details, but these three psukim, none of them look like lav. None of them look like the Abish is giving you a lav. The shaila is which one is the main lav, which one is the tafel. But the Rambam calls them his hira. The Torah was mazer in all three. Halacha he gives when it is permissible to go to Mitzrayim. He says, Mutter lachzer le'eretz Mitzrayim l'schayra, parkamatya, for business. And then he gives then he writes, Ein osir ela l'ishtakei hasham. It's only not osir to l'ishtakei hasham. To note that, there are words that we don't really know what they mean. This is not a very common word, l'shtakei Hashem. We do know a word of l'shtakei Hashem because we all say the Haggadah every year. But that's probably the only other place where I can recall that word. What is the source of that word? I don't know what the word is when a person analyzes words, but I think it comes from the word shakua, the orangutan. And at least, as we'll say later, I believe it has a lot of, it would fit very well. The ein loikin alavzeh, because when you went in, it's okay. It's only usher to stay there and to be shakua there. You thought so? There's no ma'isa thinking. And then he gives a heter, another heter, that if we capture Eretz Mitzrayim by a Jewish king only, then it's mutter, which would indicate, and the others would like that, and a sicha, that if you were to, test that is, if you were to capture it, if other goyim capture it, it doesn't help. It has to be a Jewish king. And then he writes, but the captured as a whole is not a problem. And as long as it's in the hands of goyim. And he writes why? Because you don't want to be like Eretz Mitzrayim. K'mais Eretz Mitzrayim. All right, I want to note, as I noted, the word l'shtakei is a very, very strange word that he uses here. He brings the three places. If you notice, the three psukim, we know one of them appears in Parshas V'Shalach, and the other two appear in Devarim. One where the Eibishter gives us the tzivui in Parshas Shoftim, and one where the Eibishter tells us as a klala in Parshas Kisavai. Now, the order should Shalach Shaftim Kisavai. But the Rambam brings the pasuk of Shaftim first and the pasuk of Shalach last. Why does he do that? Why did he bring the pasuk and specifically set up the Torah by the Torah? The Torah was tailored the Isser of Lishka and Mitzrayim with in a way that indicates only, and that it has to do with getting more horses. Why didn't it write it as a law for itself? To the point that caused a big discussion amongst the Mefarshim. Is there a law really in the Torah for living in Mitzrayim? And as we mentioned, the narrative of the Torah does not sound like this law. It just keeps talking about the fact that that I told you're not going to go back to Mitzrayim. So the Ibn Ezra and the Chizkuni, they both say, yeah, you're right. There was a mitzvah, but it wasn't ever written down. Ramban argues, there's a lot of discussion. We don't have the time for that to get into all the details. Agoyis Maimonides, Halacha Zayin here, asked the Veld's Kasha. The bottom line is there were Jews that had communities there. And the biggest Kasha of all is that the author of this Sefer lived there. How did that happen when he's telling you it's Osir? Sefer Kafta B'Ferech, which we're going to discuss a couple times here, mention what he says. He says, Shamaiti b'Mitzrayim b'Rav Shmuel Zal Echad b'Nei Bonov Shel Rambam. He heard from a grandson of the Rambam, one of the grandsons, that when the Rambam would sign his name in any letter, in the letters that he sent, he would finish up and say, I who's over every day 3 lavin. So, first of all, how can we say that the Rambam, who's so great, who's the Amud HaHirah, Amud HaTorah, was over 3 lavin every day? It says on the Rambam, in Meisha, ad Meisha lekam k'Meisha, as we know the Koch, and the Rebbe's made that a household phrase. And he was over 3 lavin every day. Hard to believe, but that's what he did. That's what he said. Also, we need to understand, in Hilchos Tshuva, he writes about when you sin, how do you do tshuva? And he says, anytime you did something wrong to another person, you should make it public knowledge of what you did. But if you did something today that between Adam Lamakim, you should keep it between yourself. And not only that, if you're with Galid, it's not good. So how did he go and write this on his dummy letter over 3 times? Why would he do that? I mentioned the Rebbe L'Kutei Sichos has a whole arichas about this halacha of not living in Eretz Mitzrayim, contrasted to the halacha in Hilchas Yisur Bia, which is discussed a lot in the Rishonim, that the people of Mitzrayim are not Mitzrayim anymore. They're displaced people. We call them refugees. They have been displaced from other places. Well, they're not the refugees. The Mitzrayim are refugees. Perhaps they're in Palestine. I don't know. But they have been displaced by Sancherib. And that's why you're allowed to marry them. And then he speaks Kalap Perish, Mehem, Kaskasa Shapirish Menarayv, the Rambam says. And then because into a long Arichas, we're talking about this called the Parish, why it's called Parish. It's an incredible piece. But just while he's involved there, he talks about a very interesting concept. What is the Isser? Is the Isser on the land? Is the Isser on the people? That's the general, is that there's a big biyun in the Rishonim in many, many places. What's the Isser? And the Rebbe adds a third dimension, that it's an Isser on the land. However, any people that live in that land are affected by that land. And he bases it on a Medrash Rabbah, Marsh's Bollock, on Vayochel Ha'om Liznes. He says that there are lands that create certain personalities, certain effects on people. And so the Rebbe says same thing, Eretz Mitzrayim, it creates people that are Mukulkolim. They're beautiful, beautiful stuff. That Sicha Kedai to go through. It's Kevei Brochel Atzmei. Let's add it. Let's get back to the big kasha. The Rambam is teaching us don't live in Eretz Mitzrayim, and the Rambam is the one that lived there. So there are many, many, many answers. The Kapter of Erech says, he says in Lashon, Amarti le derech chatzim nechama, that the Rambam lived there against his will. He was a doctor for the king, and therefore he was allowed to do it. Another answer that's given, that the Torah only only forbade to come back, to go through the process that the Yidden did, to go through the desert in Yam Suf and come to Mitzrayim. The Pri Chodosh in Kedusha Mayim Chaim uses that Rambam that we mentioned before in Hilchas Yisur Rabiyah, that these aren't the Mitzrayim anymore. And he writes, that's why people rely on, well, that's what they rely on to live there. Ben Bechaya, the Pasha Seiftim says it was a temporary love. It's not a permanent love. Those people were known to be terrible. Radvaz says that you're only usher to go from Eretz Yisrael to Mitzrayim, but anywhere else you can go into Mitzrayim. Now, it's not the same idea of the process of Midbar, it's just from where. The Radvaz says that nobody goes there to live. Everybody goes there, nobody's going to L'shtakeya. And even though they get stuck there, it's Yisura Ba'almui, because that doesn't fit with the Rambam. It's interesting. The Karma Eda on Yeshalmi in Sanhedrin, Perikut Aloch Ches, it says that since we need to be Mechakev Abiyas Mashiach every minute, every day, so no Jew goes there to stay. Okay, this is a good deal to talk about on itself, is the fact that a person needs to be Mechakev Abiyas Mashiach is not considered that he's not Shakur in a place. It's a good question. So it's a discussion on its own. There's a lot of irois about this. It's not for now, but again, it's just an interesting idea. The Chida brings B'Shem Be'Ritva that Isser is only when Jews are settled properly in Eretz Yisrael. But when we're Dachim, Kol Katzvei Ha'aretz, there's no Isser to live there. And the Sheila Meshiv has a different take on it. In his Shuvas, he writes that the whole Isser is on Jews as a whole moving there, but not on individuals living there, which again, all of this is beautiful and great. However, very hard to pin on the Rambam, who does not mention any of this. Not only doesn't mention any of this, but seems to say halachas that don't fit with that. So it would be still hard to understand that that's what the Rambam means. Okay. But yeah, these are all different beautiful answers. Again, there's a lot of details that I'm not getting into simply because I limited the time on this. But the sugya is very broad, and there's a lot on each of those answers that can be discussed. But we're going to just focus on one possible approach. But in order to get to this approach, let's go back to what are the issues that we mentioned. Is that the pasuk that the Rambam uses in the Sefer HaMitzvahs and in the Minyan HaMitzvahs, and the one that he brings first here, and it seems to be the pasuk according to him for the law, is the pasuk of Parashat Shoftim. Now there, the pasuk, as we said, combines it together with the law of not going there to get horses. Rak leyarbaloy susim, v'loyoshev es ha'om mitzrayim alaman harbais sus. Don't go back to get horses. Hashem amalachem leisesif v'loshev b'derech hazeh. Hashem told you already. It's already referring to the pasuk Parshas Shalach. But that's what the Ibn Ezra says. No, there's no pasuk in Parshas Shalach. Parshas Shalach was just a haftacha. So it must be that there was a law that never was written. But the simple reading, according to the Shainim, is, and Hashem is telling you, not all Melachim. Hashem is telling you. So, but there is some combination here between the Isser of living in Mitzrayim with getting horses from them. Mitzrayim was the headquarters and the place for the best horses that you can get. So Rashi says as follows in the pasuk: "Lo yarbe lo susim el kedei mar kafte." You can only allow to have enough horses. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin that he, the amount that he needs for his riding. Because that's where the horses come. So Rashi doesn't get into how he's going to bring the people back. So the Ramban asks, what's wrong with going to buy horses in Mitzrayim? It's Prakatya, it's Chayra, it's business, and it's okay. So if he's going to send the people to buy, who cares? So the Ramban says that it's two separate things. First, don't rely on horses. Doesn't say that, but I'm just adding that. Don't rely on your horses. Rely on the Eibishter. Then he writes, what does that mean? You're going to hire people to live there, agents to buy the best horses. That's the Isra. So clearly it's an Isra on Yechidim, not on the nation. It's an Isra to go and settle people there in order to buy horses. They will be your horse agents. They will look out for you. In order to do that, they got to be there. I guess the horse auctions and all the other things they do. The Rabbi Mizrahi, noted Pirish and Rashi, noted Mefarish and Rashi, explains that Rashi means what Rashi means. He says again, the same thing as since he's going to want to have a lot of horses, he's going to have to send people there to settle, and they will send him the horses. Because they're there, they get to see the best, they get by the best. So it's not even a question. Again, the Ramban says it to some degree, but the main point is there's no problem here. This is what the pasuk means, that they don't send people to buy for you horses. Okay. So that seems to be the connection of what to the Isra, to the idea of not having horses. But I would like to focus on Maral. The Maral in Sefer Gurarya, which is one of the noted Svarim in explaining Rashi, he brings the Ramban's question of living there. He says, I'm weird the kavod. And I think if that word can be applied to the Rambam, it opens up and answers a lot of questions. He says, it's not what neither the Mizrahi and him are saying. He's going to settle people there. He's not going to settle people. That's not the issue. The issue is he's going to go back and buy stuff there. Right. Shadova ze osur hatayra sheyiyeh tzorich l'mitzrayim. Those are the key words. The Torah asked us to need Egypt, to create a need of Egypt. Now, a king needs horses. The king needs certain things. And if that's where he's going to send people not to live there, the Shakua. They're just going to go for business. But that type of business is awesome. What is business mutter if it's there? Agar? That's a business that l'ishtakeya. Why? Because it's a business that tells us we need Egypt. So he writes, now, clearly Klal Hadover. This is it. This is the rule. Listen to these words. Just like you can't live in a place in there, because dira living is kviyus. When you live there in a kviyus, it seems that you need mitzrayim. We go for business. You can get business anyway. You decide you want to do business of mitzrayim. It's better than business of mitzrayim. It's easier for you. It's closer. But hamelech shamar b'leisus, and sus is something he needs. Even shamar b'leisus, harei tzorich l'mitzrayim. But that was awesome. Incredible insight into the system that we have from the Rambam. That it's not about the issue of settling people there. No, it's about being dependent and needy of Mitzrayim. And he writes that the other, he doesn't like the Mizrahi Pshat, that's the Pshat in Rashi. So it's not about living there, not about settling anybody there. It's the mere fact that there is something there. Mitzrayim has sus, and you are dependent on Mitzrayim. In other words, and again, I may be stretching the idea, but I think that's what he is saying. Yidden left Mitzrayim. We can't go back to Mitzrayim. When we were Mitzrayim, we were avodim, we were dependent on them. We can't create a chashivus of Mitzrayim. We are there because we are machshav Mitzrayim. When you live there, you're machshav the place. You give it a chashivus and say, this is my place. I live there, I live off it, I'm dependent on it. If there is something that Mitzrayim has and I need and I go there for it, that means I am now creating a chashivus Mitzrayim that a Jew should not have. Mitzrayim should have no chashivus by us. We left it. It's gone. So that makes sense. And the Rambam brings the pasuk, as we asked, he brings this pasuk, brings it first and foremost, because the Rambam is bringing, and because you don't like the Rambam, that is a tzivui, as we said, it means Hashem Omar now, he's saying to you, not he said to you, not referring to a previous tzivui as necessary. The ikar is, this is the pasuk that gives us the picture why you shouldn't be in a child. If I can, the connection to sus is the whole longness of the Isser, is the whole concept of the Isser. The other psukim just tell us, don't go to Mitzrayim. I don't want you back in Mitzrayim. This pasuk tells you what I don't want you in Mitzrayim. I don't want you dependent. I don't want you machshav Mitzrayim. I don't want you having a relationship to Mitzrayim in a way that puts Mitzrayim on a pedestal. Perhaps that would explain his use of this unconventional word of leishtakeya. To stress that it's not just living there, it's being shakua there, arangit on the Mitzrayim. And that happens, meaning needing it, being needy of Mitzrayim. And that happens by living there, that happens by needing something that Mitzrayim is unique about, something unique about Mitzrayim. And that fits why that lotion is always used in Mitzrayim. Same idea. Pasuk is telling you Yankiv did not go because he was machshav Mitzrayim. Haket didn't want to be in Mitzrayim. So, if that is true, we may be able to answer why did Rambam live there? Because he didn't need Mitzrayim. The similar to what the Kafta of Ferich says, but not the way he says it. He says it was an anus. He had to be there. No, he didn't need Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim needed him, and therefore there's no chashivus to Mitzrayim. There's no value in his life to Mitzrayim. Forget it. He didn't want to be there. So if theoretically a person knows for sure, even if he's living there without a desire for the land, without any interest in the land, he has no choice, not a choice, physical choice, he just, whatever, this is where he ended up being. then theoretically there wouldn't be an Isser. Because there's no Lishtakeya. Oh, so the Rambam was not Mishtakeya. He wasn't Shakur Mitzrayim. He had no Shaykhis to the land. He didn't want that land. He was there. Can't forget that instead of being Tzorach Mitzrayim, the Mitzrayim was Tzorach Loy, and that's why he was there. Oh, if I say, why did he write Ha'oivim B'Shol Shlam? So there could be two reasons. One, forget. He goofy was saying, I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to do with these lam. Even if it's a semblance of being a lam, I don't want to have to do anything with it. So I have no tzorach mitzrayim, I have no chashivas mitzrayim. I don't want to be here. That's probably a part of it. But perhaps there's a deeper intention. Because what you think inside you is something that you know, but others don't necessarily know. And he was here to teach everybody, don't do what I'm doing. Don't settle here. And because others will come, they will be ishtakeya. The Rambam was taki unique. And therefore, he taki had no sin, none at all, zero. But he wanted that others should learn from them, and therefore he had a right to write this, even though it's considered Megalit of Shah of Rabbin, because there was no Pesha, it was only a means to teach others. Perhaps that would explain in a way that doesn't, create any new Chiddush halacha, because it's not permitted to do. Nobody can ever decide, and I don't need it. The Rambam could decide that. The Rambam, and it was a clear thing to some degree because of the fact that he was there for a reason. He was there for a reason other than his own. He was there for a reason to help the Jews and be and be the reifa for the, as the Captain of Five says, be the reifa for Melech Mitzrayim. Anyway, seid gesund am Neisach, guten Erev Shabbos, Hatzloche in the next couple of days. I want to add that tomorrow is also my father, Omer Shalom Yatzid, Rabbi Yosef, Shel Yecheskel. So it should be L'Ilu Nishmasai, the Inyanim that we do, the Limud Rambam, that learn together, Rambam, and of course, the Siyum Rambam and the Yom HaKodesh of Gimel Tammuz that's coming up. Seid gesund und stark, and a guten Erev Shabbos.